I'm Sean Fennessey, and this is The Big Picture, a conversation show about Gladiator II. Chris Ryan and Mallory Rubin, my two most formidable warriors, enter the arena today to discuss one of the year's most anticipated films, Ridley Scott's follow-up to his 2000 Best Picture winning film Gladiator. We'll talk about the film, its Oscar chances, our favorite Lego sequels.
Oh, yeah.
Chris wants to talk more about the Christopher Nolan movie. We're trying to tamp him down a little bit. Just be easy. It's going to be a couple of years.
Let me help you.
Okay.
Let me help you help this pod.
We can talk about some news. I did want to cite before we begin. Is it possible that this trio, this triumvirate, this power core has not recorded a podcast together in this formation since the Inglourious Bastards rewatchables 5 years ago?
No, I think we've only ever been in like crossover event drafts. I do not know the three of us have potted.
What?
Isn't that possible? Isn't that right?
Well, we've
Potted together.
I'm floored right now, right? Because we've potted together a ton, but someone else has always been there.
And also, when we pod, it's usually a competition, and I don't enjoy myself.
It's true. You want to have some fun today.
Not sure what he means.
Yeah. You and I, obviously, we bring a certain kind of intensity to some of these episodes, but we very rarely just celebrate together and hang on mic. We hang all the time off mic.
Sure.
Yep.
But
yeah,
but on mic.
It's usually you two hanging out, and then I'm like,
no.
It's like you had fun on Instagram.
No, you're under an unhide blanket with
and
a bunch of dumplings.
Not fucking invited. That sounds great.
Don't play the I wasn't invited card.
Can I ask you?
First of all, you live in Bumblefuck.
Yeah, and also you were like, I'm never ever leaving my house. And I wanted to ask
I'm
you.
here today. Am I not here today?
You are here today.
With my two dear friends.
When you get delivery food, does it taste good?
Tastes wonderful.
Do you
but now, to be fair, I have
What do
no
you
point
mean?
of
I got a
comparison.
burger yesterday, a delivery, and I was just like, this tastes like shit.
Oh, because she only eats delivery. Yeah.
like
Well, the burger, I mean, it requires a certain strategic approach.
What's
you
the
have
approach?
to be factoring in the delivery range. You have to be factoring in the wetness. Like, is it a place
that this stuff or what?
It depends.
The wetness, that's
like
important.
you've always, Chris, you always need to think: is it as wet as it should be? Okay, just take what I'm saying seriously and think about it. But if it's a place that puts a lot of sauce, a lot of toppings on the burger, like maybe it's not as good of a candidate for delivery, or you're going to need to deconstruct the burger, maybe toast the bun, perhaps ask for the sauce on the side. You have a lot to learn.
This is me grabbing the wheel back, driving the car back onto the road of film.
It's good. It was a helpful 10-minute stretch where I just slowly adjusted the mic to where Jack wanted me to put it in the first place, and now we're ready to pod.
We are ready to pod. Is there any news that you'd like to discuss, Chris? Matt Gaetz, anything regarding that story?
I want to talk about
Oh,
how much like Trump's cabinet, Nolan is building his own Avengers.
He certainly is. Yeah. Fewer criminals in this cabinet?
We don't know.
Hard to say.
Yeah.
Zendaya, how many crimes have you
I'd
committed?
love to take a look at some of her Venmos.
So run down the list for me of the
Off
maybe
the top of the
maybe
dome.
Helicopter movie, maybe not.
Damon and Holland.
Yeah, Matt Damon and Tom Holland are in this film. You're a fan of them.
Hathaway and Zendaya.
Anne Hathaway and Zendaya.
Lupita Nyong'o and just announced Robert Pattinson.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
It's like
incredible.
7 of the 28 most famous actors in Hollywood right now.
And we don't know what this movie's about. 1920s vampires, spies, horror, or a Blue Thunder remake.
1920s vampires?
That got thrown out there, but I don't buy that. That's way too close to
what do you want it to be about? What do you think it should be about now?
I want it to be Blue Thunder.
Mm-hmm.
I want it to be Blue Thunder.
I want it to be 1920s vampires now that I know that's a thing.
I think it should be a Jan 6 movie.
Really weird energy from
Did
him.
Is Sorkin doing that?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
I'm not sure. I pray to God no. Because my Q Shaman biopic has been in motion at Hulu for some time now, and I'm just waiting for the final green light.
You know that Nick Cage is he's so ready to be that guy.
Who's he going to play? Mike Pence?
No, he would play Q Shaman, but as long legs.
and how would that sound, Chris?
It's Bill's. I can't take that.
Should we go right into Gladiator 2?
Sure. Strength and honor.
Strength and honor.
Yeah.
So this is, as I said, one of the most anticipated movies of the year. A healthy grouping of the original crew from the film is involved. Obviously, Ridley Scott was the director of the first film. The cinematographer John Matheson is back. A handful of actors are back. Connie Nielsen in particular from the original film. Derek Jacobi. But we've got this new story. The new story is about a new warrior who we come to learn is named Hanno, whose real name is Lucius. And, I'm not quite sure how to navigate spoilers for describing the plot of this movie, because it's pretty well known that this movie is very similar in structure and story to the original.
I don't think we're spoiling Strange Darling. I mean, like I think it's actually what you're worried about has been given away in the trailers.
Has it now at this point? So. Okay. So, Chris and I...
I think it's difficult to have any conversation about the
just the movie at all.
Or similarities or movie at all if we can't talk about that, and also a couple key things that happen at the end, which are basically some of the only things that make it different from the first.
Yeah, well, we'll put fencing around conversation around the third act specifically and spoiler warnings. But in order to talk about the movie in any meaningful way, we have to reveal who this central character is in the story, right? Would you guys agree with that?
Absolutely.
And this is known to the public at large?
I feel like it is, but like I apologize to anyone. If you don't know anything about Gladiator 2 and plan on seeing it, pause this podcast and come back after you've seen it.
Go see the movie. Have a great night at the theater.
This thing that we're talking around right now, did you both sense that quite clearly when you sat down to watch the movie? That this is where the movie was going?
I did not.
And what about you?
So in the trailers, and just the marketing of the movie, it's clear who Lucius is in terms of the maternal line.
Mm-hmm.
That's very clear.
Who's the father, though?
That I was not aware of.
Yeah. The Maury Povich of Gladiator.
Yeah. That was a surprise to me in the theater. And I will say, despite having rewatched the first Gladiator film maybe 3 days before I saw it, I found it actually slightly disorienting, where I was like, did I forget something crucial from the first movie, or is this
which
an
is
update
also
/
you are not the kind of person to miss something crucial from anything.
It
so
for a second really sent me into like
better
racing through my memory before I was like, no, okay, this is an update. Let's roll with it.
Well, maybe you've set up a good place to start, which is sort of what are your relationships to Gladiator? You were on the Rewatchables episode, right?
I love that movie. I think it's a magical, awesome action movie. Yeah. I think Crow is incredible. And it's just like so transporting. It is probably like the version of like true old school Hollywood blockbuster filmmaking, like from that era, from that 2000s era that I remember most fondly.
And how do you feel about it?
I think it's sensational. I never tire of rewatching it. Like, it's one of those movies that completely transports you and sweeps you away the first time you see it. And then every time you revisit it, no matter how much time has passed, and at this point we're talking more than 2 decades, you're like, is this going to be as good as I remember? Right? And it's either as good or better. That's at least my experience to it. The performances are incredible. Obviously, the artistry and the craft of the filmmaking, the set pieces, those moments, because so much of it is oriented around the action and the drama. Then those, like, I mean, the movie is bookended by 2 iconic, like, Pantheon speeches from Maximus that people still quote all the time to this day. And so it has this, like, emotional wallop. Obviously, the framework of the film of, like, when do you realize what the hand going through the wheat really means? It's a very affecting movie as well. It's fascinating always to read or hear tales about the production and how hard it was to reach some of those points in terms of what the structure of the film was ultimately
significantly rewritten during production.
And the resistance to some of the things that ended up being the most beloved aspects of the film. But yeah, I love the first Gladiator.
Yeah,
movie.
real lightning in a bottle thing too. Crow at that moment in that shape, Joaquin on his ascendancy there, like, being able to patch together the Oliver Reed performance, even though he passes away during production, like. I think if you simulated Gladiator 100 times, 98, 99 times, it's like
great Richard Harris
not as good.
Performance.
Right shortly before he dies. Yeah, I similarly love it. It's not in my like absolute top tier Ridley Scott, but it is right at the top of that second tier of films. I think
I agree with that.
A useful way to think about it for me is it's arguably the last truly practical blockbuster. In that there's very little CGI.
Yeah, other than like the wide shots of Rome and stuff, right?
And even those feel more handmade. It feels like a very practical kind of blockbuster. And it's right at the end. It's the summer 2000.
Yeah.
And it's right before Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, and Spider-Man.
Yep.
And obviously those are, I would say, the 3 movies that probably change summer blockbusters for the next quarter century. And so the production design of that movie is beautiful. The costuming is incredible. Yeah. And you got, like you said, you have Crow kind of basically giving the ultimate star performance in a film like that for our generation. There's probably not been anybody who's done the swords and sandals or the like fallen hero rises kind of a story as well as he does in that movie. So it's a movie that, it won Best Picture and was a box office success. I guess a little bit of controversy around that Best Picture win. It's maybe not considered like one of the greatest Best Picture wins of all time. But it's a movie that has a huge reputation and people love it. I thought it was very funny. I don't know if you guys read Adam Neiman's piece on The Ringer about the original Gladiator.
I did. Yeah.
But his, him connecting the relationship that Ralphie on The Sopranos had to the movie and how that was maybe a subtle dig at the sort of like alpha bro-ness of Gladiator and Gladiator fandom, I thought was very clever. Gladiator 2 is a movie that has been off and on the menu for roughly 25 years.
Yeah.
There have been many iterations of scripts over the time. They immediately went into development on doing a sequel, despite the fact that, of course, Maximus dies at the end. You and I have talked many times on pods about the never-to-be Nick Cave version of...
You can see online still,
Yes.
where Maximus fights his way through hell.
I have no notes.
Would have been a very exciting
day.
movie. Would have been a very different kind of a film. The movie was a DreamWorks movie back in 2000. They sold the rights to Paramount in 2006 when they were having some money troubles. And it's just been in a kind of state of development for a long, long period of time. It finally comes to us here now from Paramount and Ridley Scott. Chris, I'll start with you. What did you think of Gladiator 2?
I was entertained.
Yeah.
I was entertained. I don't think that I will rate it anywhere nearly as highly as I rate the original.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I think there are things about it that are like the most illustrative problems I have with modern blockbusters. A kind of like messiness of the writing, a kind of over-reliance on CGI and special effects in situations where you're like, this completely takes me out of this. But ultimately, like, a central performance from Denzel Washington, who I think in some ways is the star of the movie, that would make me even go back and see it again. I remember earlier this year just being like, this is going to be Top Gun Maverick. This is going to be fucking incredible. I'm going to see this 5 times in the theater. Mescal's going to be a huge star after this. And I think like,
That part's
I'll
happening.
be halfway right. You know what I mean? Like we'll be halfway right about that. I think that this was like something that we just like in my mind, I think I maybe overhyped myself a little bit. So that if I sound tempered, it's because of that.
What about you, Mel?
As you will recall, because you were there on the podcast with me, I was so excited about this movie and so hyped about it that I forever broke and altered the rules of what was eligible to be included in House of our annual hype draft so that
I do recall.
take it with the 6th overall pick for the entire year. So I was very much looking forward to the movie. Let me tell you something. I had fun in the movies. I had a great time. It is such an entertaining movie to watch. It's quite long. I treated myself to a robust meal at the multiplex. I got a 5-piece chicken tender at
while
the
you
theater.
were, so you ate a 5-piece chicken meal while you were watching this?
At an AMC. Yeah, I was so hungry. I'm like, this is a long movie. I really got to like settle in. This is a chair that reclines. I'm going to get comfortable. I'm going to fuel up. Got the chicken tenders, got a popcorn, got some Sour Patch watermelons, got a cherry vanilla Coke because it was one of those soda machines that you can mix and match. Sat down, saw our former colleague and beloved pal, Jason Concepcion, in the row in front of me. Delightful surprise. Turned the other way, saw our colleague, Charles Holmes, right there. Wonderful surprise. Had a blast watching the movie and then couldn't stop thinking about whether the movie should have existed because it is just, I think the cast is incredible. Like genuinely a lot of my favorite actors are in this. Like Pedro Pascal and Paul Mescal are 2 of the most important people in my life. I don't know them.
They're not in your life.
They
They are people you look at.
Yeah.
It feels like they're in my life. And they're very important to me. And I thought the performances were really wonderful across the board. Obviously quite campy and extreme in certain circumstances. But it's just the movie is so similar to the first one in terms of plot, structure, approach, focus, pacing, that it's difficult to not then land where you did, which is like, if it's that similar, it's beckoning and inviting and forcing almost a comparison that would always be there for a legacy sequel, but like a direct, almost like 1-to-1 comparison.
Yes.
And so the movie is not as good as the first one. It's like, I think hard to land in a different spot, but I had fun.
When
what about you?
When we were talking outside, I said to you, how do you communicate that this movie is a huge disappointment to me and also incredibly entertaining.
Yes.
You know, that it is very clearly a fun night at the movies.
Oh, yeah.
But the food that you ate at your screening is appropriate because this is an empty calories movie. It's just not ultimately a very serious movie. There's honestly nothing wrong with that. And it fits quite neatly, I think, into some of the late Ridley Scott tropes where he's like, I'm going to take on Napoleon and I'm going to put a lot of jokes about fucking in it. You know, like that's kind of where his sensibility is at right now.
If you taken in a era, this is a real splatter paint era for him. And I think I'm trying to be better about like using like off-screen journalism about like how the movie was made, or this bit that Ridley Scott says about like, I think he was talking about Prometheus recently, and he was just like, we kind of fucked that up. And I was like, no, I've been thinking about Prometheus for 10 years, so you can just be like, it's good.
Yeah.
Like, but like,
well, he does the opposite where he like says that movies that everyone agrees are not good are good.
Yeah.
You know, he'll be like 1492 is one of my best. And you're like, sir, what? Like,
he's insisting Gladiator II is like his best film, but it also sounds like he's sort of like, I work on like the compositions and like the pre-visualization, and I'm worried about like this massive canvas, but I kind of let the actors just sort of do their thing. And I do think that kind of comes across in the film. There's a little bit of a casualness of his grip on the rein is like a little loose, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's some inconsistency in the performance styles. Like, it's interesting to hear what you said about, because I don't know if I enjoyed the performances uniformly. One, I think one of the key flaws of the movie is that Lucilla, Connie Nielsen's character, who was in the original film, is really the emotional center of the movie.
Right.
And I've liked Connie Nielsen in movies in the past. I just didn't think she gave a very strong performance in the movie. And so the movie really sags when you need her to convey that she is sort of like this bridge figure between two generations and the structures of power that define this era of Rome.
Yeah.
So immediately, as soon as she gets her first big moment in the film, and she in this film is she's the wife of Acacius, who is a general who we see early on in the film in a siege in Numidia, taking land in the name of Rome, and he returns home, and they have a moment together, and I was like, ooh, shoot, this is not that very, like, the sort of, like, the uniformity of performance style in Gladiator that makes it so effective, it's immediately all over the place.
You know what, there was also, like, what, I don't know whether you would call it, like, a pyramid structure to Gladiator in terms of its, like, the importance of each plot line of Gladiator, where it's like very clearly Maximus's movie.
Yes.
And then secondarily, a story about a brother and a sister who were grappling with their father's death that the brother was responsible for and the sister is mourning. And then on the third level, the Roman Senate, Roman society, this moment of change in this empire. It's like a parallelogram in this movie where it's like, it's kind of Denzel Washington's movie, but it's also about these two crazy brothers who are ruining the city, but it's also about like Lucilla rediscovering her connection to her son and also her love affair with this general who's got mixed feelings. It's kind of all over the place, and at various points on the mixing board, I feel like he's like, this is going into the red, and I'm going to basically put Paul Mescal in a cage for 40 minutes. Like where like he's just like getting visitors but not doing anything, and it's just kind of like rhythmically or like equalized wrong for me.
But I really agree with that, and I think you're hitting something key, which is like, to me the issue isn't that it's not mapping onto the pyramid, it's that it's really trying to, but then not like actually just do something different. But you have your key figure who then connects to a family in turmoil, and can they understand their respective motivations and get on the same page? And then they are connected to the levers of power and some secret plot or stated ambition. And part of the reason that I think it felt much messier and less neat and tidy is like, I'll save, because you said to box around the third act, I'll save some like character fate stuff for later, but even just in terms of like where we find Rome and then how that impacts all of these other aspects, these personal and political dynamics, it's like the question of what Rome should be. Rome's place, the Roman Empire's place in the world, and the people who are driving that. That's still the big question. That actually is not different. Okay, so we have a similarity. We have a comp. What's going to make this movie feel new? Let's just flip the thing, right? Instead of here's Marcus Aurelius's dream of what Rome can be. It's a bastardization and a compromise and a failure to execute against that promise. So it's like disorienting because it's similar enough that, again, it's like constantly inviting the comparison, but then the thing that is intended to make it feel like a distinct experience is simply just to flip it to the point where with a couple of the outcomes for certain plot lines and characters, I almost felt like it became impossible not to know what was going to happen to certain people, whether it's a good thing that happens to them or a bad thing, because you're like, well, the corollary in the first film ended here. It's basically has to be the opposite in this movie.
Well, okay, I'll suggest what I think could have been a shift that would have been more interesting to me. And I wouldn't have rewritten the movie specifically in this direction, but you can see that it's something that is compelling Scott because he keeps turning towards it, which is that the kind of counter idea to the typical hero's journey that we see from Maximus and that we do sort of see from Lucius in this movie is you could have turned the movie into a more kind of Caligula style portrayal of Rome at this overconsumptive bacchanal stage of its history where everything was too much all the time. And you've got this pair of brotherly emperors, Gita and Caracalla, and you've got this Macrinus figure that Denzel Washington plays, who is sort of like a rising power player in the Republic, and more tightly focused on the way that world worked.
Yeah.
And then maybe introduced in the second act a hero who needed to kind of disrupt what was happening inside of that space. But that's just not conventional enough for a traditional blockbuster. Like it's just not Joseph Campbell, so you can't.
The pitch could have been, we're going to do Gladiator from Oliver Reed's perspective, and we'll make a movie about Macrinus who wants to upend Roman society and finds his tool. And this guy who, in his like lurching for power and wanting this chaos, corrupts himself, betrays everyone, etc. That's fucking awesome.
Would have been a cool movie.
But
it would be like if Lex Luthor could control Superman.
Yes.
Like that is what the movie would have been.
And so until he can't. And then that would have been really cool. But I think that, to your point, I was going to ask you a question. The way you were just talking.
Yeah.
Do you think that this movie does something or doesn't do something that something like, say, Top Gun Maverick or Force Awakens did do? Because I would say those are similarly the same movie.
For sure.
They are.
Yeah, I mean, right. Force Awakens, which will maybe come up later on this podcast, is in almost every respect mapped onto a New Hope. But like, okay, so let's stick with Macrinus for a second. I think without question, the Denzel performance is like the most successful thing about the movie.
The best part of the movie.
Irrefutable.
Yes.
It's
it's the best part of the movie. Every time he's on screen, the movie is absolutely alive.
Yeah.
Absolutely wonderful.
Almost to a problematic point where like, why is my pulse racing?
Yeah,
and then why am I feeling
if he's not there for a second.
When everything...
Yeah, and he's a very complicated character with some very raw ambition. But my friend David Sims texted me this morning. He was like, the problem with the movie is that we are rooting for Denzel Washington.
Yes.
Okay.
And I don't know if that's where you should be.
I don't know that it's a problem to root for him. I mean, I guess it is because you're supposed to be aligned with the people who are opposing him. But like, to me, the challenge was, okay, Proximo. You're like, right, so this is this movie's Proximo figure.
That's the Oliver Reed character.
The Oliver Reed character. He ended up being righteous. He ended up making a final stand at the expense of his own life to help Maximus. So it was always clear before we knew what Macrinus's true intentions are, that all of the excess that you're talking about, this like rot in Rome, was going to actually be the thing that he cultivated and used as his pathway to power, that he could not be trusted, that it wasn't going to be the same story. And so it's like, even though he was my favorite part of the movie, it was still dramatically less compelling because it felt inevitable that he was going to be a foe long before it was actually clear in the movie.
Completely agree. Because he is originally framed as the sort of, he purchases Lucius and he trains him to become a warrior in his stead of warriors in the arena. And he's a kind of mentor figure to him. And he's making him promises on the expectation of his future relative to what he's able to accomplish in the Colosseum. But Denzel Washington is playing the part so insinuatingly throughout that his dark ambition is just barely underneath the surface. And so you are waiting and waiting and waiting for this inevitable moment. Now, I think like when those moments happen and they come, like the movie again, I'm like, this is like kind of rip-roaring.
Yeah,
this is actually the Ridley Scott with the safety off thing, the kind of Prometheus, birth sequence where you're just like, whoa, this is really weird and intense and a little scary and funny. and that odd blend of styles that he's able to kind of smash together in these big tentpole movies that I love. But I like completely forgot about Paul Mescal when all that stuff is happening. I'm like, does he even matter to this movie? Maybe that doesn't matter as much, but I think it keeps us less grounded.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Paul Mescal a little bit.
Please.
So, an Irish actor of some renown, got his big break on Normal People. I think all three of us really like him. Obviously, Mallory would like to have sex with him.
So would you, though.
I mean, he's a very handsome fellow. Yeah. I know you recently saw him in person. You were struck by him, right?
Yeah. I was in an elevator with him, and I was like, this guy, I had been stretching my back outside of the elevator because I was like, my back was like, and a different guy was like, oh, I have a great chiropractor on 2nd Avenue you should go to. And the whole time, Paul Mescal was just like, I can't wait for this conversation to be fucking over so I can get out of here. Like, so it was a cool moment for all of us. Yeah.
Memorable.
His on-screen persona thus far, in films like After Sun is very sensitive, thoughtful guy. All of Us Strangers.
Wonderful.
He is
love.
Young millennial, elder Gen Z heartthrob because of his simultaneous, like, strapping classic matinee idol good looks combined with this kind of like gentle parenting sensitivity. This is a much different part for him.
Yep.
Very, very different from anything he's ever done before. He's asked to do certain things, particularly, I would say, speechify at a loud volume.
Yeah.
That he doesn't have a ton of experience with.
Where we are, death is not. Yeah. That's what you say to us every day when you're getting us ready to.
Yeah, that's what I drop into Slack every morning, 6 a.m. Let's go, guys.
It's time to crank.
Tonight we ride. I think he's like 80% of the way there in this movie. And I think he might be miscast, or the character is not totally written the way that the thing is that, like, he's a wounded mama's boy, right? Like, that's a part of the motivation of the character is that he is ultimately a kid who has been abandoned by his mother and is cast out, and he has to build a life for himself and build a family. And, the same way that Maximus has an inciting incident with the murder of his family after there's an attempt on his life by Commodus after he kills his father. Similarly, Lucius loses his wife in that raid that Cassius storms on Numidia, and that sets his journey into motion. But he's motivated by something, which is this abandonment that he won't let go of. That's a very Mescalian character type.
Yes.
But I don't know if the movie quite sells us on it. I don't know. What did you think of Mescal in the movie?
I thought that he did the best he could with the material that he had. And by material, I don't just mean the script. I also mean like the positions that Ridley Scott put him in. There's something which we'll talk about soon where he's frequently fighting like CGI animals. Like, frankly, like a lot of his like accomplishments like never really match up to the first time we see Maximus against the Germanic tribe. You're just like, well, that's Ed Reed. You know what I mean? I'll follow that dude into any game. This is fucking incredible.
You put it on a platter for you.
Yes.
But when he's just like, on my command, unleash hell, you're like, well, whatever happens in the next 2 hours, I'm with this guy.
Yep.
He never gets a moment like that in this movie. And I think that can't be his fault. But I think the moments where he could have pushed it to some sort of stratosphere and like galvanized like the audience to be like, oh yeah, this is his fucking movie. He just gets smoked by Denzel. And that's a schedule loss, man.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing wrong with that.
Yep.
But it is what it is. Yeah. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. They were in Alabama. Yeah. In prime time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Roll Tide. Interesting. So I have a slightly different feeling about this, which is like that, again, he's an incredibly special and important person. Very good looking guy. Great thighs. You listed all of his, famous movies, but you didn't list the place where he is most present for people, which is their Instagram feeds, where GQ posts pictures of him walking around various cities in short shorts all the time. So nice to see that.
Another in a long line of internet boyfriends.
Indeed, truly. The thing that you're citing, the absence of the Ed Reed, I would follow you into any hell, made total sense to me. And actually, like the moments...
He's not a general.
Yeah. The moments then where like that happens maybe on fast forward felt strange.
Yeah.
Like that actually is part of what was compelling to me, to find the protagonist in a very different place in his life. Not only because of that, to your Campbell point, inherent inversion of the general who shouldn't be the chosen one, who is then picked by Marcus Aurelius over his own son.
No, Lucius
to
actually
be entrusted,
is
and
the,
Lucius is the prince who has left this birthright behind. Initially, because I also thought this was kind of like a sloppily executed part of the movie, the reveal of the backstory and when and how and why Lucilla sent him away, and then the out for a day of recreation with my pals and pursuers are here, so I have to flee, and then I guess he's just like lost from that point. But
there's a reason why that is tremendously confusing that we'll reveal a little bit later.
Yeah, so it's not just that he then feels abandoned by his mother, it's that he embraces this other home, his wife, this community, and then begins to see Rome not through the eyes of the prince and the heir,
but as an adversary.
But as an as an adversary. Like, look at what this greed and this hubris and this incessant need to always like encroach and take and gain and grab does to people. And I thought that was interesting. Like, dramatically, that was actually one of the richer parts of the text, to the point where, like, the Pedro Pascal character, Acacius, he is also, this is like one of the reveals of the movie, right? That he is actually also in that frame of mind. He does not want to continue to lead other men to their deaths because of the greed of the reckless and insatiable twin emperors. He wants to challenge them, thwart them, do a coup, as they say on The Great, and then help usher in a different era of Rome, the era that his wife and her father wanted. But that was never like really allowed to breathe and tease and to be teased out enough. Like, I feel like actually if more of the focus had been on the fact that they were the the people who didn't actually occupy power and want the other things.
They're like the administrative class. Yeah, right.
It like would have been more interesting, but that's not ultimately what happened. I wanted more Pedro. I didn't feel like we got nearly enough of him.
His character is quite strange. I similarly really respond to him as a screen presence. I know he's very famous now, and The Last of Us has kind of put him into the stratosphere, but I think he's a terrific movie actor. And
he's great.
This part feels underwritten and kind of cautious.
He's
and
quite good in the action scenes. I think.
Oh,
he is like a fantastic
the Red
set piece
Viper,
actor,
physical actor,
which is like really actually a talent to be able to communicate. Like,
you buy it.
Yeah,
it's the same thing when he was.
I think when he's
Red Viper, you're like, this is absolutely incredible in that series.
It's one of those funny things about Mando where whenever you hear how like rarely he's on set and in the suit, and I'm kind of like, why?
Yeah,
like,
we need him.
Would be amazing, actually, out there doing that.
But that part feels like he only gets to have Maximus's bona fides as a leader and nothing else, really. He's kind of like, he's quite restrained in the sequences with Lucilla and even in the attempted coup conversations. And so you don't know what he's meant to do. And then you realize basically his story and that side story is just a tool to Lucius's story. It's not really a developed plot line, which is not necessarily the worst thing in the world, but there are, I think you put it very well. There's just a lot of competing forces that makes the movie feel very uneven.
I think that there's a world in which I'm trying to evaluate the movie we got, not the movie we wanted or the movie we think we would have done better, like developing.
Yeah.
But I think that it's fair to say that this entire conversation is bracketed by this idea of like Hollywood's obsession with reviving properties, with keeping IP going, with, if you're going to do that, like, they're just going to be playing in a sandbox that's got pretty high walls. They're not going to be messy. They're not going to say like, what if this kid was just a brat? You know what I mean? And what if he was like very easily manipulated and all these different people were trying to like force him into these different roles?
I'll tell you what, the movie I saw last night, that's the thing I liked about it. Just to give you a little teaser, is that the movie was unafraid to be like, this is what this person's really like.
Yeah.
This is what it would be really like, which is kind of a brave choice.
And that was wicked.
And, and that was wicked. Yes. Elphaba, she really was a brat.
Yeah.
You know. Anyway, I think you're right. There was like opportunity here. It's a little bit bungled. I do think that when the Colosseum sequences are at their best, they're still like as exciting as anything can possibly be. There is a bit of a challenge with this because anytime Lucius or anyone else was fighting a human, I was like, this is movies, man.
Yeah.
This is as exciting as spectacle movie going.
Like when he's just training and getting his ass kicked, but keeps getting up. You're like, yep.
Yeah.
That's how we make
the row,
shit.
the rowing sequence.
It's like it's
Ravi treating his
legit
hands
But
out.
this
inspiring.
is a Dr.
Wonderful.
Doolittle-ass gladiator movie.
It is. There's a lot of animals and creatures, and none of them are. There were no animals on set. Clearly, there are.
Other than Dondas.
We'll get to Dondas. There are fight sequences that feature baboons.
Yeah.
A rhinoceros, and then
sharks.
As suggested in the trailer, there is a shark battle sequence across boats.
Yeah. Shocking stuff, frankly. The sharks.
It has been declared that the likelihood of anyone during the Roman Empire times catching a shark, let alone transporting
There's
it,
like a
seems
dozen
low.
in that water too.
Quite a few sharks in
like
there.
you could walk across the
them.
sharks to get to the other side.
Yeah, I didn't think any of those three sequences were terribly successful. Rhinoceros probably the most successful of the three.
It's also fully in the trailer.
The baboons was just CGI.
Yeah.
Like it's just not.
Yeah.
It just I actually felt like we got dumped into
Paul
Wicked or
Mescal,
something. You know,
there's like an interview with Paul Mescal where he's just like, and it's these little men who ran and tackled me, and I'm like, that would have been better.
Yeah,
because it was like they needed green guys to like come running up to him, and I was like, that would have been chill if like a bunch of dudes ran out.
I mean, the idea of using animals in general is not. There's a tiger component to the original film, you know, like that's not out of the realm of interest. But I thought all three of those just kind of felt like that condition that you're talking about, where it was like we got to have like a certain kind of. The audience is expecting a certain kind of spectacle.
I'll go further than that. I'm throwing down the gauntlet. You know, we recently went and saw Apocalypse Now on wonderful widescreen 70 millimeter print. You've got to have the real animals. I challenge all actors and directors that if you're going to start, you got to let a bunch of wild baboons attack Paul Mescal and see where we get. They may disfigure him. He may no longer be the internet's boyfriend. You know?
You do remember the plot point in that fight that hinged on him then he has to eat part of the
I understand, but like go for it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? What happened to method acting in this industry? Like,
what do you think? Would you be willing to put Halo in the arena?
No, I do not agree.
Okay.
I'm glad that no animals were harmed in the making of this movie, and I'm glad that Paul Mescal's face was not harmed.
If you're not responding like the way Frederick Forrest responds to the tiger in Apocalypse Now, I frankly just don't believe you. You know, like if you're not like that fucking tiger, motherfucking tiger. That's what he should have been like with baboons. Instead, he's like, "Oh, okay, baboons." You know, like
here's the thing.
Like, what is up with that?
But at the end of the day, all of the most important people are lost, not to a baboon or a rhino horn or even a shark, but to an arrow fired from far away. Chris, that's the real terror.
Then we don't need all the animals. Like, why is most of the action in the Colosseum
this guy would not have lasted
animal-based?
long in Gaeta's empire because it's all about the spectacle. It's all about the spectacle.
I'm not against spectacle. I just want it to be real.
Some of it, I think, is just about the execution. You know, I have certainly, I really like Peter Jackson's King Kong. That's a CGI animal movie experience that I think is very effective. And there's a lot of attention and care put into the execution of how that creature looks. Sometimes they look good. Sometimes they don't look as good. As you said, it just took me right out of the movie. I was like, okay, so we're just like in Jurassic World 6.
Yeah.
Like it just didn't feel like a Gladiator movie. And I think that obviously generationally, there's a certain level of acceptance in terms of what the visual presentation is of set pieces too, that I think is a component of this too.
For sure. I think that ultimately, much like in the first film, even though there are a lot of grand sweeping spectacles that are incredibly compelling in the first film, the most like heart thumping, oh my god, like I feel like I'm inching forward on the edge of my seat and the tension is so high are the intimate fights, right?
The one in particular in the Emperor's party sequence where Mescal is one-on-one with the bruiser in
like
front of the crowd.
Floor, smashing through the cakes and like
fantastic. That sequence is great.
Yeah, I mean that's much more compelling and more effective than any of the baboon stuff. But the fact that you have the scaling up and scaling down and can kind of convey that whether you were in like a private chamber or an arena as massive as the Colosseum, the currency always is violence and entertainment, I actually found like effective.
Okay.
Keep the baboons safe. Keep them away from Chris.
What did you guys think of Fred Heckinger and Joseph Quinn as the twin emperors?
Oh my God.
That was the spiciest part of the Cheesecake Factory menu of acting.
Yeah, that was the
we
Louisiana
did.
pasta.
Holy
Of this
shit.
That
movie.
was just like chef's choice.
Two young actors, very promising young actors. Fred Heckinger.
I love them both.
White Lotus, probably what he's
White
best known
Lotus,
for
oh,
at
yeah,
this
for
point.
sure.
He's been in quite a few movies in the last couple of years. Joseph Quinn, most recently in A Quiet Place Day One.
Stranger Things, of
Stranger
course.
Things
Eddie.
is going to be in. Is going to be Johnny Storm.
A little
in
movie
the
called
Fantastic
Fantastic
Four.
Might play George
Yeah.
Harrison and the Sam Mendes.
Yes.
Ooh.
I thought that they were having the appropriate amount of fun in their sequences, and I thought that they were. They have compared themselves to doing John Lydon and Sid Vicious from Sex Pistols in their portrayal of these two guys, which I thought was kind of clever.
They
and
were in Denzel Washington's movie, and I appreciated that.
Definitely.
They were, and those are the two performance styles. You've got Connie Nielsen and Paul Mescal trying to
And
be
Pedro
quite serious,
Pascal.
and Pedro Pascal being quite serious and staid, and
Yeah.
thinking about the Republic and the future of power in this place. And then you've got demons fucking shit up on the other side.
Yeah.
And the demons were fun. Like anytime they're on screen, I was having fun. And even though it is very outsized, there's a long tradition in Shakespearean performance, in Roman and Greek tragedies, to have characters that are outsized like this. So I enjoyed them.
Just sensational stuff. Genuinely wonderful. Two performers who I love and enjoy. And yeah, it's like, I think you can argue that the tonal clash is deliberate, right? And that like the fact that there are the more severe and measured and reserved performances tells you something about those characters, and the fact that these are so loud and bold tells you something about those characters, and that the moments when they are forced into the same scenes together, then there's like a Mentos into a Coke bottle effect that is kind of interesting to
Totally.
watch.
Totally.
I just I do think that the scene of, are we talking about, I keep almost spoiling what happens to
No,
people.
we're
Not
very
yet.
close.
Okay.
We're very close.
Oh, wait.
Do you think that they tried to? Was the anxiety of Commodus's influence weighing down these guys at all?
Yeah, I mean, I think in a weird way, like while I was watching it, I was like, these guys are doing late period Joaquin. Like they're doing the more like mannered, like crazy Joker shit, which I thought was cool, because if you kind of imagine the way that power would have like decayed over the decades, and the way that these guys would have gotten dumber and more indulgent because they just never learned like
Right.
like
There's a sense of like inbreeding going on too.
Yeah,
There's like something kind of wrong with these
Heckinger
guys.
has like syphilis,
Yeah.
right?
He's
Like
the disease
There's
in
like a
his
mind
loins.
rot, yeah.
And his loins has made its way to his brain. Great
and
moment.
I would say that like that whole like side of the movie, their kind of decadence and debauchery, Washington's Macronus's manipulation of them, where that goes is my favorite part of the movie.
Yeah,
which
for
is
sure.
just so funny to be saying about a Gladiator movie.
But also it's interesting because there is no equivalent for the two emperors of the wound that drives Commodus. There's no equivalent presented in the
they're
film.
just fucking
of like, this is what
nihilists, yeah.
drives me. My father didn't love me. My father, when I was young, told me what the four virtues were, and I possessed none of them. And I knew from that moment onward that he like didn't love me or value me, and that here are my other virtues. And he chose Maximus over me. I guess I have to strangle him and then try to kill Maximus and take power. There's nothing like that. To the point where when they turn on each other, it's like, okay, I guess that's the thing, is just that they don't want to have to be a shared act, and also just that their whole life is about the party.
If it feels like a very clear like Cain and Abel, Romulus and Remus.
Yeah,
kind
for
of,
sure. And
you
we
know.
even get the Romulus, like the moment with the but the reason I'm saying that is because actually it doesn't in any way dampen the effectiveness of the
I agree.
character deployment in the film.
Yeah.
And so actually maybe it's a case that like, I think often my impulse is to think we need to understand more about the arc and the journey and the motivations. And it's like, maybe we need even less of that.
Yeah.
And like my gut response in a way to what you were saying earlier about orienting it more around Rome and that aspect of Rome, my first thought is like, well, both films, including the first one, have like genuinely no interest in the Roman people. Like none.
Yeah.
They're simply like a prop to stand in the to stand at the Colosseum.
They are
and
interested in
cheer.
how power operates in the city, though.
Yes, with the Senate and the idea of Rome. The idea of Rome as a character. The people of Rome are not characters in either film.
Right.
And in some ways, that has always felt like a limit to me. But actually, I think once you try to start doing that, then you're just sort of like, this isn't HBO's Rome. That's
and it's
not what the
communicated.
intention of
That
this
stuff
movie
is
By the way, I love that
communicated
show.
largely through expository dialogue rather than like
Yeah.
what you would expect from Ridley Scott, which is like, oh, this like incredible moment in the city center where you find out that these like the public has turned on the government. That happens a little bit in the Coliseum. It certainly happens towards the end of the film, but like they start the movie being like, hey, we're like a little stretched thin. Like we have to keep taxing these people to feed the army that you've got spread out all over the world.
Right.
Like you imagine that it's at a tipping point, but it looks just the same as it did in the 2000 film where you're like, it seems like everybody's having grapes and partying.
Yeah.
Like,
Except then you have the riots.
That's what I was going to say. The movie, though, does lean into this very interesting energy where, obviously the inciting incident of the first film is the idea of Marcus Aurelius giving Rome back to the people and turning it over really to the Senate.
Yes.
Which I think is an interesting and complicated idea in 2024 America, maybe internationally, politically, like what that even means to turn power to a government rather than to an emperor. And then in this film, you see this much more like aggressive rendering of populist outrage, which again, like the movie feels like oddly out of time in that respect. Like who really wants to have power and why they want to have it. I don't need my Gladiator Legacy sequel to neatly map onto the American Electoral College, but I find it to be an interesting time for a movie like this to come out in the same way that Conclave, which is like so heavily leaning into like, hey, isn't this just like this election cycle? The movie could be read as like as a misread on how politics is working right now. And in fact, like we are in a kind of emperor state. We are in a time when that kind of that idea feels more resonant. So again, it just feels like one more theme that is like not totally thought through, like not totally explored, or it's just too much for any one movie to bear to lean too far in any of these directions. We can officially start spoiling the movie. We've been talking for 50 minutes. If you don't want to hear we've said quite a bit about it, but there are a few critical turning points that we'll discuss now. If you don't want to hear any more, then you can fast forward 20 minutes or you can go take a long walk or fuck off. I don't care. Okay, those of you who have not fucked off, the big revelation, which I certainly felt about 20 minutes into the movie was coming and then is clearly communicated, is that in fact Lucius is Maximus's son.
Yes.
That he is the bastard child, presumably, of his relationship with Lucilla, which we learn about in the first film. There is a memorable moment in the first film where Lucilla and Maximus have a conversation about having sons who are both
the same
8
age.
years old.
Yeah.
Which at the time of watching that movie, I wasn't like, wow, I bet that's Maximus's son. There's not really any insinuation at all.
Well, it's also just like, that means Maximus was like fucking Lucilla right when he was having his own kid, which is bad funny.
But
that's strength and honor right there.
But okay, this like makes nothing is surprising about them making this choice. Of course, this is what ended up happening, but the first movie hinges on one thing. How Maximus feels about his family.
Yes.
So
the image of his wife and child hanging there, and then that driving everything.
Yes, and so even though it is equally apparent throughout the first film that he and Lucilla had history, obviously we do get a kiss, but just that they had history, that there was something between them, that it was not going to work and it didn't last. That's all there. But the timing part of it, I actually find that like bizarre in terms of what it.
I thought it was actually. I mean, they directly reference it in Gladiator II. The much more transgressive idea is that he's Commodus's kid, a product of incest. And that is like lightly suggested in the first film, but certainly is overtly referenced in the second. Yeah. And now obviously like you can take from that whatever you want, but that's the kind of like, this is a little bit fucking dangerous to do that. Like this kid who's got like, just this terrible background and is now coming back to try and maybe like make something pure out of his like there's so many different
burn it all down.
Well,
like that could have been the way to do it.
This whole thing is just a lie. Like
and I am the like the inbred product of all of what's gone wrong with this idea of the Republic in the first place. That would have been that's a totally different movie. I mean, a completely different movie.
Yeah.
It would have been an interesting idea. As soon as you get the cut of Lucius's jib, though, actually, honestly, the first thing you see is his hand in the wheat. You know, his hand in the barrel that's full of grain.
Yeah.
And it's an obvious callback to Maximus walking through the kind of afterlife, feeling the wheat.
Well, those guys didn't have blue sky, so they didn't really have much to do with their hands.
It's
like
true.
it was either touch grains.
Yes. They couldn't refresh the
What else-
For You
what else
tab.
could they
Baboon
touch? Okay.
faces.
And as soon as I saw his hands going in the grain, I was like, oh, I guess Maximus had another son that was not murdered.
Yeah.
Right. Don't you just feel like Lucilla would have told Maximus this in the events of the first film?
Well, I mean, she didn't really have enough time. Like, I think that there was a world in which she could have helped him pursue what Marcus Aurelius wanted,
Which was,
but that happens very quickly. You know, Commodus he's on it on that one.
Yeah.
You know, like the calendar invites were hitting. It was like, my dad's dead. We got to chat. Let's go. I got to get you out of here.
You don't think in like the conversation about their sons, she could have been like, by the way, or like, you know, even in this movie, she references like, you were on his mind at the very end. Now think back to the very end. Lucius is safe. By the way, he was your son. I want you to know before you die.
Yeah. It's a bit of a janky
feels like
storytelling thing in the movie.
Him?
Yeah.
It's very
Did that feel like a note to you? Did that feel like somebody was like, we have to Skywalker this kid?
That's an interesting question. I feel like the movie started from that premise.
Yes.
I feel like it had to for them to justify it, but it is a classic case of retconning. I mean, there's just no other way to put it. Like this was not in the text of the first film at all. And it's okay if it isn't. It's not like the worst thing in the world, but it got me immediately thinking back like, shit, when's the last time I saw Gladiator? Did I miss something? Like,
I had to go back and
saying.
I had to go back and just be like, as soon as we got out of the screening we saw, I was like, did I miss like did I pee every single time I've ever seen Gladiator?
Where Lucilla was like, by the way, he's yours.
Yeah, were they like, we're like, remember when we fucked 8 years ago?
Yeah.
Weird. I have a son.
Yes.
He's 8. You know, like
yeah. It's not the worst thing in the world. So, you know,
it's also weird because like he's been traveling the globe the entire you know, he's a little bit of an absentee dad anyway. He's like, you know, fighting
not by
Germanic
choice.
tribes.
They just won't let him go home.
Yeah,
you know?
but like
much like Acacius,
yeah.
You're saying Maximus was not a good father
Well, I mean,
to his bastard son.
either of them,
We didn't know.
or his acknowledged kids. Yeah.
Well,
But he, you know what he
really
did?
did more
He gave him
Povich
the
the package.
gift of inherited, you know, combat sense. You know,
Yeah, he's
because
got
that's
great
how
instincts.
Lucilla is just
Yeah.
like, that's my son. It's
Kind of
because
he's kind of a Bronny James, honestly. If we're, you know, it's
Yeah.
like he's got some of the skills. You can see there's like the DNA is there, but is it all there?
yeah.
I
I found Paul Mescal very convincing as a fighter. Did you not?
It's
When
okay.
he fought people, yeah.
I don't think he was put in a position to succeed.
Interesting.
Much like Bronny.
Yeah.
I would like to talk about Macronus.
Please. Yeah.
So obviously Denzel's best part of the movie. Denzel is in this weird, not a weird place, a hard-earned place where pretty much like Equalizer 6, I'm like, I will be there on opening
Good,
night.
'cause
You
he's
know,
making them.
I know.
Yeah.
But I was looking back at his filmography from the last 20 years, and I was like, it's this weird combination of, you know, he's been on this mission to make films like Fences, to get August Wilson's films, plays in front of people. He is still occasionally doing this sort of Roman J. Israel style character piece. And then he's doing big top blockbustery stuff. He's doing the Equalizer movies. He's doing Gladiator 2. He's really struck this harmonious balance in his 70s of being a wildly acclaimed, multi-Oscar nominated actor and the surest thing at the box office who doesn't really do Marvel movies. And also like a very weird guy who's like, I'm going to make Macronus a bisexual freaky guy.
Yeah.
And like, I'm going to like try, basically it's a new thing he's never done before.
And he's also on one of the all-time promo
yes,
campaigns.
he's obviously having a lot of fun promoting this movie, which it seems like he never has fun promoting movies. And for whatever reason, this time around, he did this Esquire as Told to piece that is fascinating about his life and getting sober and all this other stuff that's been going on with him.
Losing
And
to Kevin Spacey.
yes, taking shots at, you know, how he doesn't vote for Oscars anymore. But the movie itself, like, I think the thing I want to focus on is just there is an outlandishness, an absurdity, like a fun having in this character that he doesn't have a ton of history with.
Yeah.
You could say like Alonzo a little bit in Training Day is this, but there's something also under the surface there where you're like, this guy's really fucked up.
The
He's got a lot
first,
of problems.
Adam called this a prequel to Training Day.
it's probably the closest you could get, but he usually plays a very tight, forthright person.
Yeah.
And that's not what this
He
is
loves
at all.
Shakespeare. I think he sees this as a Shakespearean character. I think he brings an almost theatrical like stage presence to the movie, which the movie desperately needed. I also think that like he gets to but he gets to play someone, like you're saying, is like a villain that we are weirdly cheering for, and someone who is like actually pretty messy. Like he does not have like an overarching plan.
No.
He is constantly taking advantage of the chaos of the moment. So when Lucius shows up, he's like, bang. When he gets closer to the emperors, he's like, going to twist it this way. When he gets over the emperors, he's like, here's how I'm going to flip these riots, and they'll want me to be the person who's in charge of Rome. Like, I love how, like, in the moment this character was. It wasn't like, okay, I can see this is your arc. You're going to do this. And, like, it's obvious that, like, you'll wind up being this person. It's like, when watching the movie, I did not expect him to be the Commodus of this movie, you know? And that's sort of where it kind of winds up in some ways.
Something that Joanna and I talk about a lot on House of R when we cover any Rings of Power episode, any Lord of the Rings tale, is one of the reasons that Sauron is so compelling as a villain is because he's the great improviser, you know, and that felt
that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, that's really good.
Very present here. Like that ability to, because a lot of villains are plotters, plots and schemes and plots, but to be able to adapt inside of your ambition is just thrilling to watch.
Yeah.
When you're seeing somebody do it with this level of ability, and it's particularly effective in the performance and in this film because one of the things that you have to buy in any scene he's in any circumstance is that the person he's interacting with does actually clock that they're being worked, but still falls for it or still gets swept up in it. Like there are very
sort of so brain damaged that, you know,
or
like,
scared or
scared,
compromised. Like, you know, like he takes over that senator's house because he has such a great
This
debt
Is My House
from the
was
fight.
like, that was because that's personal and that's intimate and you could see how he would overpower him. But then the Senate scene
with the head,
the great Dondus the first consul and then Macrinus the second consul scene, and then when it's just him in this room with all of these political operators, your expectation is that they will say to him, okay, what the fuck just happened? Let's fix this. How are we going to account for this lunatic? But that's not what happened.
He slides right in.
They're like, tell us what to do.
Yeah.
They're just immediately in thrall. And so that was fascinating to watch, whether it was a one-on-one interaction or a large room. You're almost like, how did it take him this long to reach this moment? I guess he needs someone like Lucius to be the tip of the sword that allows him to pierce the shield around those halls of power. But like he does it with ease.
It's you were comparing the two brothers to Joaquin's Joker, but he's more the Dark Knight's Heath Ledger Joker character, where he's sort of like he does not have a master plan, but his plans develop quickly, and when they do, he manages to pull them off in fascinating ways. And they're almost like so outlandish as to not be believed, but you're so sold on the performance, you're so invested in the actor who's bringing the character to life that you're like, sure, the Joker like implanted a phone in a guy's chest. I'm like, when did that happen?
He's a cardiothoracic surgeon.
It's like, yeah, okay, I guess that sequence makes sense. Yeah. I really, really enjoyed Denzel.
Yeah.
I think it's hard to not enjoy him at this age. It's also nice that he had fun making the movie.
Clearly.
You can tell he enjoyed himself.
I feel like there's just not very many people who are as famous as him and as good of an actor as him, and clearly can use his capital and his involvement in something to be like, whatever happens in this movie, I'm going to do something really interesting. Yeah. And I get the feeling that he had a lot to do with the arc of that character, because this is a guy who's like, I do the Equalizer, I do all this other stuff. My kind of brand is locked. We don't have to worry about that. So I will play a buy schemer who gives dudes pounds when we like drink wine and laugh and wears earrings and is just bawling out, and then we're going full. Fucking gets chopped to pieces.
Oh my god!
And it's
amazing.
Like, that's gutsy, man. That's not. There's no ego in what he does.
Has it crossed your mind how perfectly this mirrors the Jake Paul Mike Tyson fight, the end of this film.
It has not crossed my mind.
I couldn't help when I was remembering the plot of this movie. I was like, so, the film ends in naturally this showdown between Macrinus, who has built up this army and this team of loyalists, and then a group, Maximus's army, who is called back to Rome, and they learn that Lucius is in fact Maximus's son. And after a series of battles and Rome kind of going into shambles, there's this kind of epic showdown where these two armies are staring each other down. Lucius and Macrinus are fated to battle in a river.
Yep.
And Macrinus gets a couple of shots in, and Lucius goes down. But at no point was I like, what if Macrinus wins? That's never going to happen when you're watching the movie. Same way when I was watching Tyson, I was like, from the moment he started, throwing a flurry of punches that had no chance of landing, I was like, wow, Mike's either going to get knocked out or I'm going to sit here deeply unsatisfied for the next 13 minutes.
Right.
And that is exactly what happened. How did you feel about the ending?
I did not feel like I was ready to sign up for Paul Mescal's like Academy of Roman like politicians. Like I thought it was like cool that he was like, here's my identity reveal. Here's like my heritage reveal. It just felt a little like kind of rushed. Like Maximus had this this circular arc where he needed to get back to like going into heaven to follow his family. And he had to go through these trials to get there. And it just felt like very clean, the trajectory of that. This just felt like so is this guy the emperor now? Like, or is he like the head of the Senate? Like, I don't know. I don't even know. Maybe it's like, well, let's make a third movie. But I felt like I didn't really leave with anything emotionally from that moment,
I mean, everyone is dead. So, right? Like at the end of the movie, Gracchus,
most especially
Lucilla,
Derek Jacobi is dead.
Yeah. Macrinus, the two brothers,
Cassius. Jacobi gets it, and I was just like, what the fuck is going on?
I turned to you and I was like, damn, they really did 86-year-old Shakespearean icon Derek Jacobi dirty in this movie. I was watching the original the other day, and I was like, damn, Derek Jacobi looked fucking old when he was 62. And he's 86 now, making Gladiator 2. Great performance. Always very good.
Yeah, tremendous stuff.
What'd you think of the ending?
So it feels very emblematic of the joys and the drawbacks of the film overall, right? It's the movie in miniature, because the actual fight between Macrinus and Lucius, I thought was honestly incredible. Again, like those intimate one-on-one, like hand to hand, it's visceral combat is just electric in these movies. And the fact that I agree with you that that Lucius will, of course, emerge victorious, that actually didn't bother me at all, because I think for most of the movie, he thinks he's done, right? He's like, I had already crossed the river again.
Yeah, right.
That's right. Yeah. So like it was the emotional aspect of that for me was that just he decided to fight, decided to make the stand, decided to try to rally the troops and say, I could be Ed Reed, to stick with your wonderful comp. The fact that these two giant armies are there, armies from the same place, right? Both different factions of Rome, aligned to different people with different people.
Sort of like Ringerverse, big picture,
exactly.
Showdowns, 99 movie draft kind of energy.
Just so, the 99 movie draft that the Ringerverse swept, right?
What was that?
Okay. Thought he was never going to mention it again. And they're like literally just standing there. Like they do nothing. They don't come into play in the sequence at all. And there's something that's interesting about that. It's a reminder of the strength that is in theory at hand and on offer, and the question of whether people can tap into it or like unify it. But it is this kind of just odd adjacency. From the Macrinus perspective, the thing I like about it is we see not only what a operator he is, how he can maneuver, but the actual like tactics at play throughout the film, right? Something like the fact that he definitely pieces together who Lucius is first, before Lucius's own mother, clearly, right? When he hears that Virgil, the poet, his mind starts to race.
He was educated
right
in Rome.
Away.
Yeah.
Who is this guy? And so he
also has, we learn later that because he was a slave who was owned by Marcus Aurelius, he has proximity to this world
knowing
and
about,
this family.
Like, there's these,
exactly
stories.
So we can see, okay, he's a studier. He's an observer. He's clocking things people say, do, decisions they've made, who they are, where they come from. He does, unlike some of the other characters, have a direct tie. It's an interesting way to take a character like Marcus Aurelius, who obviously in the first movie, from Richard Harris's own mouth, we hear him say, like, was I this guy that they think I am?
Right.
Like, he questions his own legacy. That's part of the fabric of the universe.
I like that part of the film.
Wonderful. Yeah. But since then, both in the first movie and then in this one, he's mostly just propped up by other characters as, like, the guy who had it right and had it figured out and who nobody else could properly then
there's no nuance to what Marcus
shadow.
Aurelius represents to Rome.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so it felt crucial then for Macrinus to be a character who's like, the lesson I learned in my life was to take the person who put you in that place and become the opposite.
I also think that's what the dangerously like intoxifying idea of that character is, to undo the myth making of the first movie about strength and honor and the dream of Rome. This guy's like, that is all bullshit.
Okay.
Yes.
But so then this gets to the ending, because I agree. This was fascinating to watch throughout. And then you get to the end and you're like, but he never actually did it. He didn't earn any loyalty.
Right.
They rode out because he told them to, but in the moment of active challenge, nobody stood for him.
I think that's debatable. That's an interesting idea. I mean, I'm very dubious of the framework of that character's history, which is that he is a slave who sort of earns his own freedom through his combat in the arena. And then by dint of the accumulation of wealth and strategy and relationships, he rises through the ranks to become ostensibly, even if it's for the last 12
he's like
minutes
a
of the
boxing
film,
promoter who becomes a politician, which is not entirely hard to believe.
But I am very skeptical of the, like, I was nothing and now I am at the very top.
Sure.
Like, it's an interesting season where Honora, like, one of the key ideas of Honora is, like, there is no dream. Like, you don't start at nothing and then marry your way into an oligarchy.
Yeah.
Like, that's just not how the world works. But maybe you're right. Maybe the movie is telling us, in fact, that, like, it was all, he was a paper tiger. You know what I mean? That it wasn't actually, he hadn't accumulated that.
He had to dirty his own hands. Both of the emperors, he takes down literally with the strength of his own hands.
But also, like,
then,
it's like, you have to do it yourself. Like, he almost doesn't want the fingerprints. He wants to pull, like, the puppet strings.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
But he has that turn, though, when he decides to remove the emperors effectively. And that you can feel his brain rot kind of going into hyperdrive, the way that power often corrupts. Again, that whole Macrinus part of the movie is so interesting. The character's so interesting. The performance is so interesting. I just want to live inside that part of the world. And even though I admire Paul Mescal as an actor, I'm kind of like, whatever. Like, I guess he won. That's fine.
Well, what do you guys think of the idea then of the third movie that's already out there?
It's not. I highly doubt it.
It's okay. Let's use that as a segue to a conversation about this movie's prospects and award stuff too. Do you think it's gonna be a big hit?
You would know way better than me. I mean, it's doing very well globally, right?
Yeah, it made $87 million.
Doing
around
well
the world.
globally.
Yeah.
I think people need something to go see. You know, like,
but they have Wicked. This is opening in the same weekend as Wicked, which is going to be a sensation.
Yeah, I really don't know. I don't think it's going to be a failure, but I think it will be, like, bigger than Twisters, but maybe.
Ooh, like, that's an interesting comp. Now, that movie didn't play well overseas, but played very well in America. This is a movie that could play better overseas long term than in America. I'm not really sure.
There's something strange about how I feel like this movie has been an interesting litmus test where it's like, you can't just say it's, like, pretty good. Like, people are either like, never has Ridley Scott achieved such brilliance. And I'm like, he made, like, Covenant is maybe better than this. I don't know.
Yeah.
But, like, on the other hand, it's like, I don't want to say this is shit because there's so much to it that's like,
you know what it is? I actually think that this movie is equivalent to Napoleon, but my expectations were low on Napoleon and they were high on Gladiator II.
Yeah.
But they're very similar kinds of movies. When the movie is at their best in terms of set piece and character development, I'm like, God damn, Ridley Scott, the GOAT. Like, I love this guy's movie so much. And then when something feels really, really loose and unformed in the script, which is true of all of his movies, you're like, oh, this is pretty messy and not very strong. I don't know. But, like, I'm typically a big defender of late period Ridley. I really like The Last Duel. I really like House of Gucci. I really like Napoleon. I really like the Alien films. I'm mostly in the bag for everything he does. I think that this one just bears the burden of an all-time classic preceding it. And so there's only so much that can be done in that respect.
Do you think it has any Oscar chances?
I do.
Is Denzel Washington the favorite at this point for supporting actor?
I think he's in second place behind Kieran Culkin right now for A Real Pain.
Wow.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Wow.
I did just see Edward Norton in A Complete Unknown, and I thought he was very strong in that movie.
Will Edward Norton be doing podcasts after promote?
Not this one, I don't think, based on our previous conversation.
I was just like that run.
No disrespect to him, he didn't seem to be having a very good time.
Motherless Brooklyn, like he went on the all-time pod run.
Yeah. Maybe he learned a lesson or two about what
Pods can do to
yokel
America.
dickheads to sit in front of. I think he has I think it is mostly a we have to nominate Michael Caine because Michael Caine was good in a movie and he was in his 70s kind of a situation. But there's a world in which everyone just kind of remembers I like watching Denzel Washington more than any other person in movies. And that has been true for me for 30 years. And he gets a third because that could happen. The big questions to me are Best Picture. When we did a power rankings last week with Katie and Joanna, we did not include it. I genuinely don't know. I've never felt as confused by the slate of Best Picture potential nominees as I do this year. If you told me it was in, I wouldn't be shocked. A friend of mine who said he went to an Academy screening of the movie recently and that people were really into it. I think it's because Ridley Scott is capable of something in this kind of spectacle fashion that very few filmmakers are, and that we don't have a ton of big, dumb, fun, great blockbuster adult movies this year. Like Furiosa could have been one of those movies. It didn't totally live up to certain expectations.
Yeah.
The most pertinent one to me is Best Director, because Ridley Scott has never won Best Director.
It doesn't make any sense. This guy made Blade Runner and Alien.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
You'd like to get it for Alien if you made Alien.
Sure.
One of the 15 or 20 most influential movies of the last 75 years. It's been this long journey of him not getting there. In 2000, did he lose to Soderbergh? Who was it?
Yeah, was that Traffic?
Soderbergh won for Traffic. Ridley Scott's been nominated 3 times for directing.
Okay.
Can you guess the films? Obviously,
Thelma
Gladiator
and
is one.
Louise is definitely one. I know that.
Thelma and Louise is one. Obviously, Gladiator is one.
It's not one.
Did he get nominated for Black Hawk?
That's what I was going to say. Black Hawk Down.
He did get nominated for Black Hawk Down.
So he was not nominated for Best Director for Blade Runner or Alien?
I don't think those films got any above the line nominations.
Absolute criminal madness, and everybody should be ashamed of themselves.
There's a very, very tough thing that happened the year after the Gladiator Oscars. That's the year of A Beautiful Mind. And the Best Director slate that year was one of the best ever, except for one thing.
Okay.
For the person who won it.
So it's Ridley Scott for Black Hawk Down. It's Robert Altman for Gosford Park. It's Peter Jackson for Fellowship of the Ring.
Fuck yeah.
And it's David Lynch for Mulholland Drive, which is one of the single coolest nominations ever. Right? And Ron Howard won for A Beautiful Mind. I like Ron Howard. I like a lot of Ron Howard movies. I don't like that movie very much, and it's a tough loss. So anyway, the point being, he hasn't won. Usually when this happens with people who have the footprint of someone like Ridley Scott, they just decide, fuck it. We just got to give him one. It's just important.
This would be his Departed.
This would be his Departed.
Yeah.
The thing is, the director's group is very idiosyncratic. It's much smaller than a lot of the bigger groups. It's obviously much smaller than the actors group.
Yeah.
It's leaned significantly more international. I guess Ridley is international, but he's a Hollywood filmmaker. And I know you guys don't really know. I don't really know.
Like Denis Villeneuve is going to get nominated before Ridley Scott if they're going to do a blockbuster.
I wonder.
I mean,
Sean Baker.
Then he should win.
Let's do it.
Sean Baker, Brady
Edward
Corbett.
Berger. Let's say Denis Villeneuve.
Denis
Villeneuve, that's 4. And then who's the 5th? I mean, John M. Chu?
No.
Ramel Ross for Nickel Boys? I don't know. This is the group that has, nominates Pavel Pawlikowski now. Where they're just like, oh, wow, he came out of nowhere. I guess you could make the case that Edward Berger would be that, but that was a Focus movie. It's an interesting question because...
Who do you think the frontrunner is this year, then?
Probably Sean Baker right now, but I still think that similarly is a deeply unsettled thing. And there is like an old guy still got it thing with Ridley that you could make the case for. But if not here, then when is the question?
Well, he's making a ton of movies.
He is. He says he's making a great many more movies.
I think this movie will do very well. I do not think this is the repeat business crazy, like everybody goes and sees it 3 times Top Gun Maverick success.
Agreed.
I agree with that because Top Gun Maverick was like the kind of thing where even if nobody wanted to go with you, you would have just gone again to see it.
I think I did do that. Yeah.
Right. But so I don't feel that way about Gladiator 2, but if someone asked me this weekend, hey, I'm going to do you want to go see Gladiator with me? I would go again for sure.
Yeah, I'm going to see it again for sure. Yeah, I did too. I'm going to see it again. I'm probably going to see it again on the big screen. But it's not the thing you're talking about where you were like, I need to go back to that place emotionally.
Yes.
Where how that movie made me feel.
That's exactly
yeah. I think it
Unlike will, Dune Part 2. Genuinely.
A movie that I felt I needed to see again. Yeah,
I saw Dune
felt I needed
so
to.
many times in the theaters. And honestly, I wish I had seen it more.
Van sat in that chair and said he saw it 12 times in theaters. And then 3 months later, we asked him about that. And he said, I lied. I didn't see it 12 times.
How many times did he see it?
Yeah, he doesn't know.
For me.
He doesn't know. The categories where this movie will be nominated are production design, visual effects, costumes, and sound. Almost certainly.
Yep.
Everything else, I think, is up for debate. Probably Denzel.
Yeah.
Will Dondas be nominated in any category?
That would be special effects.
We do need animal performance is something I have advocated for. I think it would be great.
I agree.
But Best if you were an animal in movies, you would be furious at the CGI baboons taking human work. We stand up for workers' rights against AI.
Yeah.
But what about animals' rights against CGI animals?
You hate animals.
Chris, Dondas wore a little diaper.
Was he real?
And
or was
then
it
took
CGI?
a bunch of
mostly real.
What was it, gelatin fruit or something from the bowl and just nibble on it?
Mm-hmm.
That was real. That happened in this movie.
Yeah. That wasn't movie magic.
I thought it was.
A monkey shitting on Fred Heckinger's shoulder.
Climbing all over Fred Heckinger the entire time. All right.
Yes.
Yeah, Fred Heckinger, when we went to the screening, we talked about training with the monkey a little bit.
So he should beat Denzel then for supporting actor.
No.
Dondas?
No, Fred Heckinger.
Okay.
Big Fred.
Is this a successful Lega sequel? And what is a successful Lega sequel? Obviously, we've raised the specter of Top Gun Maverick over and over again. That movie's going to come up in our discussion of our favorites. These movies have been around longer than I realized.
Yeah.
I started rooting around for lists of the movies, and it became clear that Macquarie and Cruise did not invent this concept. That Psycho 2 came out in 1983, some 23 years after the original.
Did you have a must be X amount of years after the original?
What's your definition for
To me, I thought roughly 10 is a good
But it
framework.
could be 9. That's crucial. It could be 9, right? That's crucial for
I think my top
I said roughly,
my
so
top five
I'll
is
allow
very
it.
much in the spirit of the idea, which is director or filmmakers revisiting a work
much later in the
meditating
timeline.
on that work, but also iterating on it.
Yes.
It is not necessarily a direct sequel, it takes place a couple of years
right in the immediate
days.
aftermath of the event.
Right.
Yeah,
Exactly.
And it doesn't have to be the same filmmaker, same filmmaking team. There's often going to be either a key character or a key actor who recurs in the next film.
But then paired with
a new generation, typically.
Yeah.
But not always. I don't know, in To Sir with Love 2, was there a new, younger version of Mr. Tibbs?
Was there a second one of those?
Yeah, there was. Directed by Peter Bogdanovich.
But so when you talk about the difference between a sequel and a legacy sequel, that feels clear to everyone. There's no other thing we need to define. We're on the same page.
I think so.
Okay, great.
Although we can explore it in our discussion. Well,
here's a good one. The Jurassic Worlds are legacy sequels.
No, the only movie in that franchise that is a legacy sequel is Jurassic World, because the next movie is a sequel to Jurassic World.
Right. Jurassic World is a legacy sequel to the Jurassic Park trilogy.
Yes.
Correct.
There you go.
Empire and Return of the Jedi are just sequels to the first Star Wars. Force Awakens is a legacy sequel.
Phantom Menace is not
because it's
a sequel or a legacy sequel. It's a prequel.
Correct.
So this is complicated. This is
how did they not let us
wrought.
write Gladiator 2? It's so weird.
We know it all.
We're so chill.
These movies are really hard.
God.
There's a long list of movies here, some of which I like, but are considered big bungles. For example, The Godfather Part 3. It's probably the most infamous example of a legacy sequel. A movie that we have a fondness for, certainly. We've talked about a lot.
Yeah.
But and it was a big box office hit, got Oscar nominations, but is not remembered very fondly. Sometimes they're Top Gun Maverick. They're the best movie of the year. They're thrilling. They're a huge success, and they remind us why the character and the star are at the center of our movie.
Sometimes even, I think in that case, maybe even eclipses the first film in terms of
For me, it does.
The emotional connection.
For me, it does. Let's just do our lists.
Okay.
I'll hold off on my number 5 because I'm going to let you talk about it.
Okay.
That sound good?
There was interesting overlap.
We did have a few that recur here pretty significantly. Mallory, you and I share 2.
I have 2 that are on your list. I have 2 that are on your list. You guys only share 1 though. Is that right?
Yeah, I tried to. This is not like these are. I've gone through and scientifically evaluated what the best movies
Just
are.
right off the dome.
Well, why don't you go first then? Because yours is an important one to discuss.
Sure, I'll start with my number 5.
Yeah.
Little movie that we mentioned 30 seconds ago called The Force Awakens.
Is this movie good?
I love this movie. It's not my okay, we don't have time really to get into the sequel trilogy. Obviously, Rise of Skywalker is a blight on the history of cinema and our shared experience as fans and on
Saw
society.
It together. Yeah,
we did.
Yeah.
I
would have made that my
love
number 1 if it was eligible.
just to be clear.
Somehow Palpatine returned.
The Last Jedi is my favorite movie of the sequel trilogy. I think The Last Jedi is wonderful, and I think it is a better movie than
Is that a
Force
controversial
Awakens.
take?
I just want to get that on the record.
Interesting.
Beautiful film, wonderful film. But The Force Awakens, for the purposes of this exercise, is obviously the most appropriate selection.
I've only seen it once.
That movie.
I've only seen it once. I liked it.
You only saw The Force Awakens once?
Yeah,
I only saw it once too.
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
Hard to believe.
It is everything that we're talking about here.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
In terms of iterative of the original, but in ways that I found enjoyable. But I felt like I had whereas Last Jedi, I'm like, I need to watch this like 6-7 times, try to figure out like what he was up to and what his ideas
were. The third
were.
movie or the third movie in the sequels? Like you said, Last Jedi. Do you mean Rise of Skywalker or Last Jedi? Last Jedi, the second one. Yeah.
Because Last Jedi is kind of like upending a lot of our expectations of Star Wars movies, which was much more interesting to me than just repeating thematically, structurally, the same movie.
Yeah, I think Force Awakens is on my list not only because I enjoyed the movie and think certainly in terms of kicking off a new trilogy in Star Wars, it is infinitely more successful than Phantom Menace was at doing that thing. Obviously, it maps on very closely in a number of key respects to A New Hope. We port over not just, in place of the Death Star, you have Starkiller Base. In place of Tatooine, you have Jakku. In place of R2-D2, you have BB-8, the Icon, etc. Love BB-8, love a droid,
etc.
We have Han, right? We have Han Solo in this movie. We have Leia in this movie. We have these direct tethers and connections.
Speaking of who's the father,
indeed, we have the state of the New Republic and politics across the galaxy. But then you have these new figures, the aforementioned BB-8, Rey, of course, Hux, Kylo Ren. Have you heard of him?
One of my faves.
The best. And the connection specifically inside of like the Kylo Han storyline is I think emblematic of what makes it a very effective legacy sequel.
I forget, do they wind up being brother-sister in these movies too?
Kylo and Rey?
Yeah.
No, they're
lovers, right?
They bang.
Inclined.
Well, I mean,
they kiss.
We were close in New Hope.
They kiss one. Isn't it implied that they bang?
No, they do. They kind of like have like phone sex, basically. You're thinking
of
I
love that part.
Like
like mind meld. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah,
that's good.
Yeah.
Enjoyed that. That was in Last Jedi. Yeah.
Great movie. Great movie. Yeah, so that's my number 5.
Chris,
you've got a tie at number 5.
I do, because I was interested in exploring the idea of making legacy sequels for 2 of the greatest films ever made. So I have Exorcist 3, William Peter Blatty's, return to the world of The Exorcist with a lot of the original kind of evil of the first
13 years after the second film.
Yes.
Which is a very unusual formulation.
Very. And is a wonderful horror movie, just straight up, but also like really provocative about the ideas of the first film. And then, probably controversially, I kind of like 2010, the year we make contact.
I think this is a take that's coming more into the mainstream. That 2010 is actually good.
I saw that it was screening recently at like the Vista one day when I was going home. I really enjoyed. Peter Hyams is just an excellent filmmaker, and Roy Scheider and Helen Mirren are awesome in this. And it is sacrilegious. The fact that they're like, we're going to try and unpack and answer some of Stanley Kubrick's existential questions about, life. And
it's much more
sci-fi.
as I remember, loyal to Arthur C. Clarke's
Yeah.
science fiction ideas and less in the metaphysical
Yes.
exploration of the
But it's like, who's that
nature
baby?
of
They
life.
try to get to the bottom of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I love those two.
Good picks. You're a coward for not choosing one.
I respect it. I
You
love
do
a
that all the
smuggle.
time.
I
What?
love a smuggle.
You split. You often will be like, my number one film is 5 films.
What do you mean?
United by.
Now show me the evidence. My number 4 is Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. Have you ever seen this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You
Not
haven't.
recently,
not.
though.
Okay, so here's what I like about this movie. This is something that is very rarely done in these films. Texas Chainsaw Massacre, we talk about all the time on the show, signature horror film, certainly one of the scariest movies ever made, deeply upsetting portrayal of violence in the middle of nowhere. Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 is basically a slapstick comedy. It completely changes the tone. It uses the same framework of Leatherface and the family and the pursuit of, capturing people and murdering them and serving them. But
Jeez.
You ever seen this?
Absolutely not.
Have you seen Texas?
No. I don't think I can handle it.
No, I don't think so. You could.
This movie introduces new actors, much crazier sensibilities, same filmmaker, some of the same team that made the movie many, many years after the original. I think it's 12 or 13 years after the original. And also features Dennis Hopper, like a ludicrous performance as like kind of the hero of the movie. So it's a great movie if people haven't seen it and they're expecting, like Mallory, something just like grisly and gross.
Okay.
It is that,
Yeah.
but funny.
Maybe I'll just skip right to that one.
You could enjoy it as a standalone.
You should
movie.
watch them both back to back, but start at midnight.
I have fewer
Okay.
nice things to say about the subsequent Texas Chainsaw Massacre movies. I think it goes into a bit
Did
of
you like the Netflix
a
one?
fallow period. Not really.
I rewatched it recently.
Isn't it like wokeified?
No, what's wrong with you?
No, it's not. Isn't it like we need to start a commune?
Yeah,
like
it's about-
outside of social media.
It's about influencers who are trying to start like the new Marfa
Give me a fucking break.
and in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre town. And
I talked with Alex Ross Perry about it. Yeah.
give me a fucking break.
It was like a DEI Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Yeah, no. That's exactly the kind of movie that will
that got Trump elected.
Yeah, honestly, yes. So, like we just got to do away with this shit where we're just like, what if it was about influencers? Like, come on, man, that's not useful.
This is why PTA never makes contemporary films. He's just like, what do I have to say about
That's
this
right.
shit?
He doesn't have to worry about language policing. You want to talk about your number 4? Or you want to wait?
My number 4 is considerably higher on your list, right?
Yeah. So why don't
should
we
we
wait?
save it?
Yeah, we'll save it.
I'm actually astonished it's not on Chris.
Did you want to say anything about DEI Texas Chainsaw Massacre?
I'm content to not speak on that. Thank you.
What's your number 4?
My number 4 is T2, Trainspotting.
Hey!
A film that I think kind of came and went despite the 90s film's huge impact on culture and stuff. But like, this was kind of like my Top Gun, was like a very, very formative movie. I was, even though Irvine Welsh continued to return to these characters, both in sequels and in a prequel, that is not really like, this is not Irvine Welsh. This is about the guys who were in Trainspotting kind of being middle-aged men now. And it's very much just like a reckoning with their masculinity and mistakes they've made over the course of the characters' lives. Not literally Johnny Lee Miller and Ewan McGregor, but it's just a fantastic movie full of like very, very poignant moments if you care about Trainspotting. But I think also just like if you enjoy like very vivid, very like verite style filmmaking with like Danny Boyle's sort of signature kind of like throw everything at the wall style. There's like animated aspects of this movie, but this kind of I think is underrated, frankly. And so I wanted to give it some love. And it was a very interesting. You could revisit Trainspotting and just be like, it's another caper and they've got to get away with it. And they're all still on heroin. And it's like, some of them are sober. Some of them are like, like, it's really like.
Only seen it once, much like the first Star Wars film. So I should probably revisit it.
Yeah.
Okay, I guess we'll go to me then. So my number 3 is Dr. Sleep.
Yeah. Director's cut though.
The director's cut. Mike Flanagan's sequel adaptation of Stephen King's The Shining. Which the first time I saw it did not like, and revisited the director's cut, which is not radically different, but is deeper and longer and features more. I like that novel and features more from the novel and is, I think, a very good example of using a familiar figure from the original film in Danny, the grown-up Danny, speaking of Ewan McGregor, and introducing Abra Stone as the younger representation of the ideas that are at the center of the movie. And then the movie is just like supercharged by having an insane Rebecca Ferguson performance as the villain of the movie.
Wife.
That she just walks away with the movie and is absolutely thrilling. And there's a few things that Flanagan does, both like structurally and in the way that he shoots it, that feel like a genuine like innovation, like very different stylistically from Kubrick, but feels like a step forward.
Yeah.
And it's a movie that, like, when I saw the director's cut, I was like, oh man, everybody's gonna be reclaiming this. Like, you could tell this is kind of a big deal, and it was weird that it would kind of bomb the way that it did. But now that Flanagan is in this interesting place where I feel like he's right on the verge of being an A-list director. Between won the TIFF Audience Award, he's got all these Netflix series that a lot of people watched.
Yeah.
And he's about to make more movies.
And he's also like basically we talked about this a couple of weeks ago where we were like, Stephen King needs a Kevin Feige to like kind of bring all these things together.
He's basically doing it.
That's what he's doing.
So
and he's doing The Stand, right? Stand or Dark Tower?
No,
Dark Tower.
He's doing Dark Tower, but he's also doing Crerie.
Yeah.
So
an 8-hour Crerie, which I don't know that I'm dying
I have
for.
some questions about remaking Crerie. We have Crerie at home. It's called Crerie, and we don't need another one. We also have many other remakes that are not very good. Nevertheless, I do really quite like Mike Flanagan's films and TV shows. Okay. Mal, what's your number 3?
My number 3 is also higher on someone else's list.
Well, why don't we just do it now, since you had to sit out the last one?
Okay. My number 3 is Mad Max Fury Road.
This is my number 1 movie.
I would have put this on, but I just wanted to be different.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not having this on a top 5.
And you were gonna fucking
Legacy
do that.
sequels.
I
at
just
the Ringer.
wanted to spread the love to more films.
great.
You don't need 5 people being like, "This
I
is
see
so
you.
dope."
I see you.
The blood bag, yeah.
Man of the people. But that blood bag was dope, though.
Where did you land on Furiosa?
I thought it was okay.
See, if you're saying that, I feel more justified in my like, okay,
Yeah.
it's okay.
I thought it was okay.
I've said
Fury Road is a
mentioned that I
masterpiece.
thought Furiosa is better on rewatch.
I have not revisited it
Yeah,
yet.
I've seen it twice.
Yeah.
I almost rented the Chrome, the black and white version, which is on iTunes right now, and I would like to watch it in that format too, because I quite like Mad Max Fury Road in that format too.
Yeah.
It looks really cool.
Yeah.
Fury Road is one of the greatest movies of the century. Yeah.
That's it. That's all I have to say.
I
Incredible.
agree. I just wanted to say different films.
I have seen a lot of people, actually it was around when Furiosa came out, watching Fury Road on airplanes on their phones recently, which it's nice to know that Fury Road is always with us. And I'm usually you don't have to go to the theater. Watch it at home if your TV is big enough and your speakers are loud enough, person. But I found that slightly, it's like, let's watch Fury Road on the biggest screen possible.
I saw it at the Vista
swept
when it
away.
was originally released, and it was electrifying.
Oh my God. Yeah. It's one of my favorite movie theater memories, seeing it for the first time.
CR number 3.
I got Before Midnight.
That's my number 1.
Oh my God, I didn't even
I
realize
didn't
that.
notice that. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. It's the one of the
Well, I
most
guess we should
beautiful-
start doing because
It's
we're
one
all
of the most beautiful movies ever made.
Yeah, let's just start doing our stuff.
So
And
the first
honestly,
two,
Before Sunset could have been on this list too.
it could have been. I kind of look at that as very much in conversation with the first one about like the mistake. Not that the third one is somehow different, but like very much about young love and like the night before, the morning after, even though stretched off a couple of years. Before Midnight to me is like everything that I'm kind of like asking for from Gladiator II, where I was like, have some guts and be like, what if these people wound up together and they didn't really like it?
It's like an incredibly brave, raw, real, and emotionally honest movie about what happens in relationships.
In fairness to Gladiator II, easier to make that choice in a film the size of Before Midnight. I think also we're in our middle age, and it's a movie that like is a lot closer to what my life looks like. Hopefully not the absolute vitriolic
you don't think
disdain
you share
between me
any
and my
qualities
partner.
with Macronus? You don't.
That's true. How do I? Well, that's neither here nor there. I didn't put this movie on my list, but I similarly love it. I'm like braced by it.
I'm also just like the
difficult.
idea of being able to come back. This is similar to T2 Trainspotting, where it's like to do a meditation on these things that are really like a huge monument to youth.
Yes.
And then come back and be like, what would it be like if these people just were 20 years older? You know?
Yeah. Linklater is one of my favorite filmmakers. The Before trilogy is one of my 3 favorite movie trilogies.
What
along
are the other
with
3?
The original.
Lord of the Rings and the original Star Wars.
And then whatever the next two Deadpools are.
Yeah, probably. We'll see what gets elbowed out of the top 3. But I think all 3 of them are beautiful. But this is such a punch in the gut. And I love that. It's like so deeply upsetting, and it's impossible to escape the fact that the things that you love about the first movie getting swept up in some exciting new possibility, the idea of discovery, but then a misconnection. And then it's like, well, what is life actually really like when people make their way to each other, you know? And it's like, it's this. And I just love it. I think it's incredible. And I know some people who don't like how upsetting it is, but that's what I love about it.
That's what I love about it.
I find the film to be very French. Or like a lot of French domestic dramas, you have people like looking at each other and being like, I hate you and I've always hated you. You know, like, it's like there's a much more sort of like
too bad we have 3 children together.
Yeah, honestly. And I like that about it as well. Okay.
That was my number 3.
So that was Mallory's number 1 and Chris's number 3.
And we have the same number 2.
Well, then we'll do my number 2 first.
Okay.
That's your number 2 is my number 4.
Yes.
Yeah.
That old game. This is Top Gun Maverick. We've mentioned it quite a few times.
Dynamite movie.
Excellent film. I think it's the degree of difficulty in this film is actually quite higher. One thing we didn't say about Mad Max Fury Road to me is that Max is sort of incidental to that movie. And that by dispensing with the Max mythology, frankly, all of the movies kind of dispense with the Max mythology, but this one in particular is not really worried about connecting dots or making sure that you know that someone is someone's brother or father. It's more about the world and the experience. Top Gun Maverick is the opposite. Top Gun Maverick is like, we're doing the story of this guy from the original movie. And not only that, we're doing the guy's, his dead best friend's son is the other guy in the movie. And so a lot of people who'd seen the original bring a lot of baggage to this. Somehow this turned out to be like a for everyone blockbuster. I don't really know very many people that didn't like this movie. I'm not sure if I know one person that didn't like this movie. Even the most cynical, bitterest anti-franchise,
if you're
anti-Tom
like,
Cruise.
all this stuff in this movie that's supposed to be pulling on the heartstrings sucks. You're still like, God damn, those planes were incredible.
Yeah.
And if you're like the planes and like the stupid plotting of like, what country is this? You're like, man, when Val Kilmer shows up, I fucking cried.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah. Also just like, when it came out and the state of the movie industry and COVID and like.
It helped a lot.
I think that's inextricable, certainly from its initial resonance and staying power. Like people were just really glad to go share something together.
Yeah.
But
that's true.
I think ultimately it's then has further elevated the movie's esteem that when you return to it later, absent that context of initially consuming it, you're still just like, this is fucking amazing. It wasn't just that I was so ready to go sit in the movie theater and watch something again. Right. If that's how you saw it. It's just like, this is an incredibly entertaining film. And it's that like when your bones shake, when you feel the jets go by.
It was very special.
Incredible.
So you guys both have the same number 2.
Yeah.
Logan.
Yeah. Desecrated by Deadpool and Wolverine.
3 favorite, was it? One of my 3 favorite comic book movies ever.
Dark Knight, this, and...
Ghost Rider, Green Lantern.
You got it.
Oh, I was going to say...
Spider-Verse.
Okay.
Sorry, what did you say? The Dark Knight, Spider-Verse, and this are your 3 favorite?
It changes with time. It's...
more than like Civil War.
Doctor Strange 2.
Winter Soldier.
Winter Soldier. Doctor Strange 2. Not quite.
Hawkeye season 1.
I loved Hawkeye season 1. I did.
Eternals?
Nope. No.
Andy still fucking mentions the Eternals.
It was beautiful how
Winter
Brian
Soldier
Tyree
and
Henry
Infinity
was
War
Oppenheimer.
my-
That was so incredible.
My top 5 certainly. But yeah, this is one of my 5 favorite comic book movies ever. It's wonderful. Great performance. Also a great example of a legacy sequel because you have
Phenomenal.
like Daphne Keane. I think everything with Daphne Keane and Hugh Jackman and those characters and like the old and the new and the bridging across time is just pitch perfect.
It's very weird that she's grown up.
Don't really know how to respond to that.
Like, do you think that she should have stayed the same age?
No, I don't.
Yeah.
I don't. It's
Childlike Empress.
But I had not seen her in any movie at all since that movie came out, and she's different.
You weren't watching his Dark Materials on HBO?
Oh, is she in that?
Was not.
She's Lyra. Was she in that? She's the star.
No.
Oh
Was she in any other films?
She was in The Acolyte this summer.
Didn't finish that.
But does she play somebody with like a helmet on? She's
like
she's green.
and,
Yeah.
She was green.
No, but not fully, not a full human.
She played Did she play Greedo?
No.
Does it bother you? Doesn't bother you that they brought Jackman, Patrick Stewart to such a moving conclusion, and then they were just like, "Haha, let's fucking dig this guy's bones up."
No, because I think that's the tone.
It did bother you?
That's the tone and intention
Which is like,
of Deadpool and Wolverine, and that's what happens.
Am I not allowed to be bothered? Is that your point?
You're allowed to be bothered.
No, just that you're a pretty easygoing guy.
Not today.
Not today. Not about baboons or wolverines.
Yeah.
You don't like Logan?
No, I love Logan. I absolutely love Logan. I'm trying to think if I was bothered by that or not. I think I view Deadpool and Wolverine as like the Mad Magazine issue about a Marvel movie. I don't really think of it as in that, because that generation, that era of Marvel movies, 17, 18, 19, I was personally like, these are actually good.
Very
I was
good,
going to bat every week on the pod and being like, I promise, like, these are good.
Screaming
Like,
at Amanda.
I've seen so many fucking movies in my life. The idea of like them getting this kind of coordinated storytelling right in succession over a period of years is fucking crazy. And we have to acknowledge it while it's happening. And now when you see what's happened in the last 5 years, you can kind of see. Now, Logan, even at the time, got a screenplay nomination.
Like, and it was a little bit
praised.
outside of like the kind of...
It was made by a serious auteur and not under the Feige thumb or whatever. But it's a very, very good movie. I think you could make the case it's now a little overrated because of all that stuff. You know?
It's interesting.
Like, I had a lot more fun at Infinity War than I did at Logan. I think Logan's a better movie. But what was a more fun movie experience for me? For me, it was Infinity War.
Infinity War is the first one, Endgame's the second?
Correct.
Yeah.
I saw Infinity War with you, and you don't remember that we saw it together. We saw it the day it came out. Kills me. He has no memory of this.
That
we saw
kills
it at the
you?
ArcLight in Hollywood. Yeah, because it's one of my two favorite Marvel movies.
I mean, Chris is getting older. This is only going to get worse, you know?
No,
Like,
my memory's
it was a
pretty sharp,
very,
I
very,
think.
very important movie-going moment for me, and Chris has no memory that we shared.
Mal, I just don't know. Like, I remember seeing the movie. I just don't. What did we?
That makes
Did
it
we
worse.
kiss afterwards? Like, what happened?
If only. If only. I'm still waiting. All this time later.
We got snaps. Let's make out. Like, I don't even know what I remember getting up and being like, that was good, you know? Like, you bring this up like every 9 months. I'm like, what happened that
you
day?
You and Mal racing to a bomb shelter together because Vision got snapped is incredible.
No, I mean, that's not what that's. Not
We're
what
learning
happened to
so much
Vision,
on this
if
pod.
only.
Do you think my memory's getting worse?
No, I made a joke yesterday. The three of us were on a call together, and I don't remember what event we were discussing, but I think I literally said that was before my daughter was born, so that memory
I
doesn't
was
exist
talking
for me.
about you two. I remember I was talking about finding a picture on my phone.
Oh yeah, of me and Sean getting a cinnamon bun
at the vending machine at our old office, like furiously shaking it. I have one picture where you're just like shaking the vending machine. It's like, what could this be for? And then the next picture where you're triumphantly holding a cinnamon roll,
hot like a honey roll.
Yeah,
or whatever,
a honey bun. And Chris remembered.
Yeah,
and you did not.
No, I gave that over to Alice. She can have all those memories. They've just been siphoned from my mind forever.
I'm gonna find this photo again, and it's gonna be my first post on Blue Sky.
I don't even remember there being a vending machine at the old office.
Oh yeah, outside,
yeah, sure, literally right outside our door.
And I'm sure I've dumped like roughly $840 into it over the course of our time there, but I have no recollection.
I didn't use it that much.
No,
you're too good for that. You're about the macros.
No, remember I used to go to that weird fucking Walgreens and come back with like 10 pounds of candy.
Yeah,
I do remember that.
Yeah.
That was great. That was sick.
That was your circuit was the sweet green, the tamarind deli.
Yeah,
and it was
Rubies and Diamonds. You spent $14 on a coffee.
Oh my god, I love that Rubies and Diamonds. That afternoon routine of the coconut sea salt cold brew.
Mm-hmm.
And what was the iced tea? And then I would say, Chris, you want anything? You say green tea. No sweetener.
That was from Starbucks, yeah.
Right. And then, sure. And then you'd go to speaker and you say, you want anything? I would say yes. And then at some point, a couple years in,
oh, yeah,
I Venmo'd you $500 for all of the salads, and he would not accept it.
You declined the Venmo.
It was the craziest thing anyone's ever done, honestly. It was, if you want to know, like, how did Joker get the phone into this guy's chest? I was just like, what happened? And Mal was like, I feel like you always get me salads.
Yeah,
and I'm like,
it's
doesn't
a lot
matter.
of lunches over the years.
Yeah.
You know?
Like,
I
I got
don't
her
wanna-
like 8 salads.
I
And
don't-
she tried to give me
You're
$500.
Because I put a lot of toppings. I don't want to be in anyone's debt ever.
It was so fucking crazy. I bet I still have the Venmo notification where I was
I've
just
never
like,
heard this.
what are you doing? And you were like, I don't know, can I take it back? And I'm like,
Also,
take it back.
It was when we were in offices next to each other, so like I did it from across a wall, and
Yeah.
then he just like appeared around the door. And he's like, "Did you mean to send this to me?"
I thought she was sending like $50. And even
Right.
that, I was like, Mal, that's too much money
Right.
for
Yeah.
the 8 kale Caesars I got you.
Who did you think she could have possibly been sending that amount of money to? Like, who are some of the other candidates for that transaction?
Great question.
Yeah.
I don't think your memory is getting worse. I think our memories are getting worse. Right? We're getting old.
Yeah. And we just have too much shit in there now.
Agree. We didn't really get a chance to talk about these final number ones. There's one more movie to talk about. So my number one is Mad Max Fury Road. Mal's number one is Before Midnight. Your number one, Chris, is my number 5. What is it?
It's Color of Money, which I still think is the most magical revisiting of like and frankly better than the original to me. Revisiting of like a text and like exploring like who this guy would have been years after The Hustler, returning to Eddie Felson and just being like, now we find Paul Newman in his twilight. Now we find Paul Newman bringing up like a new protege. And it's just like fucking Scorsese and Richard Price dealing. New Richard Price novel out now.
Oh,
I saw that.
Man. Yeah.
Have you read it?
I got a PDF
do a book club.
You got a PDF?
Yeah.
From whom?
from his
Galley?
publicist.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's out.
Galley
Because
life.
you don't want to pay for it?
If he had accepted the Venmo.
That's a good point.
You
Yeah.
haven't paid for a movie in 5 years then, right?
What do you mean?
When's the last time you were like, I'm paying and not getting reimbursed for a film?
I go to rep screenings all the time.
Oh, you don't expense those?
No.
No, I'm not trying to catch you. I'm trying to say, like,
No.
do you ever say, like, tonight, I just give my money back to Hollywood?
What are you fucking talking about? You know how much physical media I buy?
Oh, that's true. That's true. That's true.
You know how much of my personal wealth I have dumped back into
Well,
Hollywood?
you're like throwing away all your memories for your daughter. I thought you maybe save some money for her too.
I mean, honestly, the one thing I should not be giving
My
any more money to
personal
is
wealth.
Hollywood.
Jeez. What are you putting your personal wealth into?
Bitcoin. Yeah.
Of course. How is the as you get on in years the cranking it? Is everything still it's good?
What, masturbating or buying?
The
Buying meme
the
coins.
cranking it and buying crypto are sort of like your two.
Oh yeah.
Those are your twin hobbies.
Yeah. I mean,
Oh
I
my
honestly,
God.
like, I probably spend way more time like on Bitcoin than I do cranking it. Yeah.
Really waiting. I could have taken a turn there. Okay, great. Very good pod. Very nice to be reunited with you guys here.
Sincerely, did you have fun?
Oh,
Did I have
God.
on this pod?
Yeah.
Oh my, are you serious?
Yeah.
The best. I love you
I
guys.
don't. I can't think of
You're
two
the closest people in the
more
world to me.
gifted
Do you think
baboons.
that when you ask, what did you think of Gladiator 2, like, or what did you think of Wicked or whatever, we should start like creating like a rating system of some sort to just
A rating system.
absolutely geolocate our take? Where it's like, I want to say that was a 7.25 out of 10.
No.
Pick
I think this
meter.
is a podcast about nuance.
I can't say I agree with that.
3 Mike and Ikes out of 5. Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
man.
why does it have to be numerical? You know,
That's
why
true.
are we bound by
How many cranks?
the traditional metrics? I think,
Yeah.
you know, how many times will I watch this movie and consider
Do I want
whipping it out?
Vivek and Elon to cut funding to this movie? No. So that was my like.
There you go.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't want to do that.
Okay.
I think I sometimes in the process of talking about a movie, I'll say like, oh, it's like a gentleman's 6 or it feels like a 7 out of 10.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I feel inconsistent in that. And I also personally on second watches or third watches of movies, changed my opinion
Generally,
quite a bit.
like movies more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just mentioned
Yeah.
the Dr. Sleep thing where I watched that movie and I was like, it's like 3 stars,
Yeah.
2.5 stars.
Right.
And I watched it again and I was like, this is one of my favorite movies of the last 10 years.
I expect and assume that when I watch Gladiator 2 again, I will like it even more.
More? Okay,
Yes.
that's an interesting question. Yes.
I
What
do
do you
too.
think? You think so
I do
too?
too.
Because the
'Cause
little
you'll
things that
appreciate
pull
the
you out
things-
of it are
yeah.
just, you have accepted by that point. You understand that that's the text you're consuming, and then you can just, like you said earlier, like watch it on its own.
Because I think the
merits.
first time you watch it, you're like, let's fucking go.
Yeah,
Let's go.
yeah,
and
yeah,
then you're
yeah.
like, what?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I'll give it a Canadian 5.5. You know?
Okay, well,
Oh, boy.
an honor and a pleasure. Thank you both,
Yeah.
Mallory. We can hear you on House of R
House of R. Yep.
and nowhere else.
Only when I'm invited to join one of you on your podcast.
Okay.
No, otherwise just House of R.
Okay.
Currently.
Where can we hear you?
The Big Picture.
Yeah. You've been. How many consecutive episodes of New York have you been on now?
We can never make the schedules work.
It's tough. It's unfortunate. Have you been watching Karl Anthony Towns?
No, I don't watch basketball anymore.
It's tough.
Yeah.
2 and 12, eh?
I have to go do this with Bill in like 20 minutes, so like fuck off.
Thanks to Jack Sanders. Thanks to our producer, Bobby Wagner. Thanks to Olivia Crerie filling in for Bobby this week. Next week on the show, we will dig into the other huge movie this week. Maybe the episode I should have done for the Friday, honestly, given the level of interest. But we'll be talking about Wicked.
Wonderful.
Which
What's
is
the
also
lineup for
Wicked
that?
Part 1.
Who's doing Wicked?
Critical guest, another important person in our life, Juliet Littman.
Oh!
4 of us have still not potted together.
That's true.
It'll
You
be
want to
the
put
last
that out in the
pod.
world.
It'll be the last pod we ever do.
In the history of The Ringer and Grantland, the 3 of us and Juliet have never podcasted together.
No.
Have we never done a hottest take together?
No. We have never done a podcast together. I would say famously or infamously inside of our friend group, we did Inglourious Bastards without Juliet, as she likes to remind us.
That did happen. I have no rebuttal to that. But if you guys want to, if you check out Wicked Part 1 over the
And me and
weekend and you want to
Juliet
get involved,
Always say au revoir Shoshona to each other.
you do say that.
Yeah.
So you were the key betrayer in that equation.
Yeah, I guess I was. I apologize to Juliet.
Will you see Wicked?
No.
I will.
You will watch it.
Definitely.
In a movie theater. Isn't Wicked more IP than Gladiator even? Isn't it a House of R episode?
Could have been.
You just chose not to?
It's a witch.
Have to follow through on the hype draft.
Is this because it's about women or what's the issue?
Yeah, we don't like women.
Okay.
But we will be doing a
Wait,
lot
what
of
did you guys
size
just do?
o'clock
A
talk
deep-ish
tomorrow.
Dune Sisterhood prophecy.
Dune Prophecy.
Yeah, right.
We'll be covering that weekly.
You really got
On
the
House of
title
R.
right there.
Dog,
the
the
TV
only
podcaster.
TV show that's good is Landman. It is honestly, it's better than Sopranos. It's like so fucking good.
Thanks for listening.